Good morning, you guys. Happy new week. Um, man. Okay, so the house is still torn apart from last week and from everybody being in the house. So we have a little bit different scenery out back. It's also, as you can tell, kind of cloudy out here and cool enough. I need a sweater. We might be venturing into a winter. Knock on wood, no snow. All right, so last week we had talked about macros. This week, we're talking about some of the micros that I mentioned, but specifically 10 foods. So last week I had mentioned that I'm going to give you 10 foods that you can eat every single day that will give you all of the micros, help you with your macros so that you can maintain and boost your immune gut connection. That's what we're going to talk about today. Because when you look at macros and you look at micros, we're so focused on this and this. We're categorizing, right? When in reality, we need to look at things as a much bigger picture. We need the macros to have guidelines, to have some sort of categorization in what we're actually eating. And then we need the micros to make sure we have the building blocks for our body to function well, right? And as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, we need micros and we need macros so that not only our gut health improves, but our immune health improves as well because they are intertwined. Your immune system cannot conquer cold and flu season without the gut also being healthy. If you're venturing into this season and you're watching this or the 100-day gut health reels and shorts that I'm putting out right now, please know that you don't have to do all of that. There are things that are very specific to each individual person. And part of what I put these videos out for is so that you watching can take the little nuggets that talk to you, the ones that go, oh, yeah, so I had this. Like I always mention fermented foods, kind of a given, right? One of the really more common recommendations you hear for gut health and overall well-being, probiotics, all that good stuff, right? So let's say you catch on to that and you realize that every time you eat pickles or you have a little kombucha or a little sauerkraut or some coleslaw, something along those lines, something that's fermented, something with a little bit of zest to it, that vinegary kind of flavor, that for the next 24 hours, you're fairly regular or things are healthy. And touching on that, I have a trigger warning for you guys coming up in a couple of weeks. We are actually going to talk about what to look for, what is healthy, what is not healthy. I've talked about this before. We're going to revisit it because we are going in to full-fledged cold and flu season. We're going into the holidays. We are going to be around a bunch of people that we aren't normally around. So these are aspects and categories and information that we really need to pay attention to right now. Not obsessively, but enough that we're helping to boost our health and our immune system, right? All right, so let's kind of backtrack a little bit. So last week, what we had talked about was, macros and a healthy immune system and how they connect and how you actually do need your fats as well as your carbohydrates. We talked about the fact that carbohydrates are not just grains. You cannot tell me or anybody else that you are going to ditch carbohydrates or go low carb and still eat fruits and vegetables. That's not technically low carb. What you're talking about is getting rid of grains or removing grains for a short period of time. That's perfectly normal. It's perfectly healthy. Ditching all carbohydrates, all micronutrients is effectively what you're doing. Not so much. So we talked about these things and how crucial they are. And then we had discussed some micronutrients, right? Specific micronutrients that really help not just gut, but immune system, and really help the way that they function connected or function together, right? They're lead in from one to the other and how what you do within your gut health, those probiotics actually do fuel and send signals to your immune system. And these micronutrients, if you have not watched that, again, it'll be listed in the description. But if you have not watched it, here they are again. Vitamin D, echinacea, which is an herb, not a food. I understand this. Zinc, medicinal mushrooms, and selenium. Those are the ones we talked about last week. I am going to add to it B vitamins, magnesium, potassium, and vitamin C. I wanted to, before I get off on a tangent, I wanted to talk with you guys specifically about vitamin D and zinc. So we're going to get into those two really quickly. But I'm adding B vitamins, I'm adding magnesium, potassium, vitamin C, because those are actually pretty crucial to immune health. Vitamin C, it boosts the body's ability to fight off invaders, right? Fight off harm. That's what it does. Now, magnesium and potassium will help you and help your muscles actually function so that you're not going to have any cramping, but it also helps with release. It helps with relaxation. B vitamins, energy, you guys. If you feel like you have zero energy, right? And you really don't think there's anything going on with your gut, you're just feeling blah. I mean, hello. We are connected to nature. When nature is blah, we typically feel blah. So on a day like today, it is important to have B vitamins. I don't absorb B vitamins very well from food. I try. It's something that some of us actually do deal with, is absorbing those B vitamins from our food doesn't always happen. And this is what supplementation is for. So for a day like today, instead of just boosting my B vitamin consumption, so a lot of, fruits and vegetables, dark leafy greens, those are pretty much part of my daily diet. So it's kind of hard to boost them anymore. But on a day like today, I'm going to add B vitamins in. I'm going to add a B vitamin supplement. I prefer the powders that go in things. I don't like capsules, you guys. If you've watched for any length of time, you know this about me. I suck at taking pills. So capsules aren't really my thing. So I'm adding these because a lot of the foods that we are going to talk about today really do contain not just your vitamin D, not just your zinc, not just the selenium, and not just the other components that medicinal mushrooms contain. And medicinal mushrooms have your B vitamins. They've got magnesium in them. They've got some level. Do they have vitamin? I don't think they have vitamin C, but they have a lot of really good, healthy benefits. A lot of the superfoods that we're going to talk about have your vitamin C. They have a boatload of B vitamins, which if you're up north and you're dealing with us on a daily basis, those of you in Maryland, DC, you know what I'm talking about. This right here is why I'm not back home. It is very hard to leave the South where we get so much sun and go back to where this is normal. This is more common than the sun. I don't do well with that either. I like sun. So that's going to lead us into vitamin D. And for those of you up north, you see this more frequently than the sun, this is specifically talking to you. All right, whether you're in the States or you're elsewhere. And I know the other side of the world, you guys are venturing into summer. So this may not be the case for you right this minute, but in 6 months, this will be applicable. Come back to me. All right, if you need a reminder, come back to me. Okay, so let's talk, because we're venturing into sunlight, let's talk vitamin D. Did you know that you need sunlight to convert vitamin D? There are studies out there that claim 90% of our vitamin D comes from sunlight, 10% comes from our food. Can you get all of your vitamin D from food? Probably, but you need help converting it, and nature helps us convert it. You do not need direct sunlight, but you do need some sunlight. 10 to 15 minutes a day, unprotected. And yes, I know I'm about to get a ton of hate mail for this, but seriously, you guys, if you cover yourself up consistently, right? And there isn't an ounce available for the sunlight to touch, that can actually be more problematic than helpful. And there are some very sensitive people out here. You can still receive the benefits of the sun shaded. So, the big hats. You're still shaded, you're still protected in that way. You're just not covered 100%. You need it. Our bodies don't do well without it. Now, when you're taking supplements, and that's really the supplements are kind of where we're getting into dangerous territory. Vitamin D is a fat soluble micro. What that means, fat soluble micronutrients are stored in the fat cells. They're stored in our fat cells when there's an overconsumption. Okay. Water soluble. That's why we have to eat all these micronutrients every day, because those are water soluble. They don't stay in our body. They get flushed out. If our body doesn't need it, it goes, psst, you're out of here. And with vitamin D, that's not the case. So some of the side effects you can experience: foggy eyes, so your vision gets blurry. You get dots when you don't normally. Now, if you have migraines, this is kind of a questionable area, because a lot of migraines start with those dots. Mine do. And a lot of other people that I've talked to, it's the same way. And one of the things I actually wrote down was to make sure to mention to you some toxic thresholds. So in herbalism, what we talk about, or herbal medicine, for those of you just watching, what we talk about are threshold limits, healthy thresholds. And what that means, the therapeutic threshold is the range that you have that is healthy dose versus overdose or a deficit. Okay, that's what threshold means. And the wider the threshold, the less intense, less sensitive that herb or food is to your body. The shorter the threshold, the more dangerous and harmful it is. So with vitamin D, you can go up to 10,000 IUI. That is 250 micrograms of vitamin D as a supplementation. This is why that is only recommended through a licensed practitioner, because for many of us out there, we do not need 10,000 IUI vitamin D. You have to be bottom of the barrel to take 10,000 IUIs of vitamin D every single day for more than 60 to 90 days. And that should be closely monitored by lab tests, because the chances that you can go from normal, healthy to overdose are very strong with that. A lot of us have been recommended to take 1,000 to 2,000, especially since the shutdown, right? And we're going to talk about some differences. So now, outside of cold and flu season, sunny summer, recommended doses under 70 years old is 600 IUIs. If you're over, or not 60 years old, 70 years old, sorry. If you're over 70, the recommendation is 800 IUI, a bit more. And the reason why is because as our body ages, it struggles to convert things, right? So you give it a little bit more, you give it a little bit of a boost. It helps functionality within your body, metabolism, immunity, gut function, the little bacteria dudes, the good ones in your gut that want to, play around and hang around, that we want to hang around. Guys, dogs playing under my feet. Ugh. All right, so that's your threshold. If you have been recommended to take 10,000 IUIs of vitamin D, make sure you're paying attention to your lab tests. All right. Now, what foods can you get vitamin D from? Well, I have a list of 13. There's a lot more, but I wrote a list of 13 and I hit 13 and I went, I'm getting a little too wrapped up in the vitamin D. So here's a few, because we're going to go through some zinc, and then we're going to go through the top 10 overall immune and gut health foods that you should eat. All right. If you're watching the replay, there will be chapters put in here as soon as YouTube allows processing. So it's 12 hours from now. So here's some of your foods: medicinal mushrooms, eggs, salmon, fatty fishes, and animal products, of course. But here's some surprising ones for you that I wanted to make sure to mention. Papayas, peaches, mangoes, squashes, melons, sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are a superfood for a reason. And for those of you that don't know what a superfood is, a superfood is effectively a food that you could eat and get a large portion of your daily requirements within just that food. A sweet potato, broccoli, vitamin D's and broccoli, peppers, some peppers, not all, like bell peppers. The problem with bell peppers is they're part of the nightshade family, and for some of us, that can cause some disruption within our gut. So just if you have a sensitivity to that, choose something else. Tropical fruits, always a good choice. Those tropical fruits, man, oh my gosh, they get so much of that healthy sunlight so close to the equator. And when you're eating them, you're whatever they've absorbed, you're consuming. Does that make sense? So there's a cycle, and I'm going to go off on a tangent for just a second. There's a cycle. We eat, we live, we breathe, we have our life, we die, we go back into the earth because, whether you're cremated or you're buried, you still effectively end up back in the earth at some point, right? Gases emit, whatever. Yes, sorry, trigger warning, a little late. But that comes back to nature, right? Nature does its thing, plants grow, what we poop becomes fertilizer. I mean, these are things that you see out, you walk past a mall or whatever, and it all smells like manure. It's because they've used cow manure and horse manure, at least around here, as fertilizer. So that's what you're smelling. But those are things that are going to fortify the grass and the ground and the dirt. And then it turns around and it grows plentiful fruits and vegetables. So these nutrients are just being recharged. We're using them and then we're expelling them. And then they're going to be growing back, right? Boosted, fortified, and now we get them again. Okay, makes sense? A little weird? I know, sorry. That's me. So now let's move on to zinc, because this is one that even last week I had said that the recommendation is 50 milligrams. Now, let me backtrack a minute because I think I confused a few people. Since these shut down with COVID as a situation right now, I mean, it's an illness. It's like the flu. It's not going anywhere. And then now you're coming into flu and cold season or cold and flu season. When you want to boost your zinc, right? You want your body to really absorb that zinc to help boost your system. Zinc is one of the crucial micronutrients that helps with functionality, okay? It fuels healthy function. It helps the immune system, your metabolism, your taste, and your smell. It helps turn on and off switches. It helps fuel this function, okay? Without zinc, things aren't going to get turned on and off. That's why you see so many marketing ads, on your social media and on TV that are telling you, here's this thing for zinc or here's that thing for zinc. The nasal swabs, really effective. Spraying up in the nose, really effective. One caution, when you do that, because you're boosting your zinc consumption for that short bit of time, and you're going straight into your olfactory system, it can shut off your sense of smell and, in essence, your sense of taste. For me, it kind of makes some things taste a little metallic or chalky, so I have to be careful what I eat if I'm doing that. If you are obsessed with using, anything nasal, a nasal application for your regular day in, day out zinc, because you're going to screw with your sense of taste and smell. And these are actually crucial elements to keeping us healthy. So we had enough issues with seasonal allergies. Do not make your seasonal allergies worse. Do not make your sense of smell or taste worse on purpose. Not worth it. All right. So what is the actual recommended daily allowance? COVID aside, flu aside, colds and flu season aside, all of that, what's recommended daily allowance? It is actually only 11 grams for men and 8 grams for women. That's it. And under normal circumstances, we would be told that zinc, if you want to boost it, you go to 40 milligrams, not 50. Since the shutdown has been boosted to 50 for one of the three. Okay. So I would just say for us, we are boosting to 50 during this season. Kids are in school. Last year was brutal. That first year of colds, and oh my God, you guys, if I hear one more doctor say ear infection, I think I'm just gonna, my brain's gonna blow up. It was ridiculous. Those of you who are putting your little ones into any sort of daycare or school this year, it gets better. And I have a full curriculum that worked for us. It took a few months to figure it out. I'm happy to share it. DM me, I'll fill you in. So now back to zinc. The National Institutes of Health actually state that the threshold for zinc is up to 40 milligrams long-term use. Right. So if you've been using 50 milligrams a day, if you've been consuming 50 milligrams a day since the shutdown, this is long term. You're going to need to shift it up somehow because effectively your body is now used to getting that much zinc from a supplementation, and it may or may not help you as much as you think it will. You gotta shake it up. Your body does not like stagnant. It likes to change things up. So I'm always telling you guys, moderation and variety are the keys to a healthy body, healthy diet. All right. What foods contain zinc? Your dark leafy greens, but dark leafy greens are kind of everything. Legumes, cruciferous foods, seeds, beets. I'm not a beet fan, but my sister loves that. So beets, they're really great. Zucchini. I wanted to mention these three: zucchini, pumpkins, and sweet potatoes, because right now they're in season. Pumpkin, you can get the pumpkin pie pumpkins right now, and I'm telling you guys, cut the stem off, pop the sucker in the oven, whole, just wrap it in foil, pop it in the oven. You can fit about 3 or 4 in a normal oven, roast them. When it comes out, there's like some mixer idea. Can't remember her name. Jennifer somebody. I love the chick. She tried the mixer method to get the seeds out. With the little pumpkins, it's a little bit easier. Once they're roasted, you can slice through them like butter. That's how you make pureed pumpkin. You scoop the seeds out, and then you scrape out all of the meatiness, and you freeze it. And you know how pureed pumpkin for the next year, it's amazing as a soup. So the butternut squash soups, those recipes, if you replace butternut squash with your pureed pumpkin or pumpkin chunks, they're delicious. They're very sweet. It tastes amazing. Mushrooms are another superfood that contains zinc, especially the medicinal ones. Those are really good. And if you have someone locally, I know we do have one of the people I'm connected to from BZen actually sells some medicinal mushrooms. So if you're local in the DFW area, let me know. I will connect you guys. You can get to it. They do an absolutely wonderful job. And I know this couple, they are very meticulous in everything that they do. So trustworthy. All right. So now let's get into those top 10 foods that boost your immune gut connection, the health of both your immune system as well as your gut. Because as we're going into this season, a lot of you are starting a reset, or you're starting kind of a seasonal cleanse and shifting into the new season, right? These top 10 foods, out of them, you want at least 5 every day. Now, as you're listening, these aren't the only ones, but you want at least 5. And as you're listening, you'll notice that a lot of these are really categories. And for many of you, if you're already eating a healthy diet, something that aligns with your body, you're eating a lot of these. This should not be surprise new information. This should be confirmation that certain things that you're already consuming day in, day out are there helping your body. Okay. If this is not the case, if any of this is a surprise, let's chat for sure. Let's chat. All right. So here are your top 10 foods. Okay. You have berries, obviously, antioxidants, the darker, richer colors, more vibrant colors. That's what you're going for here. Sweet potatoes, we just talked about those. Superfoods, cruciferous foods, not just broccoli, asparagus, artichokes, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. I have a recipe on my over on my website right now. Brussels sprouts and sweet potato tacos. You cook it. It's a sheet pan recipe. Legit, like easy. Put a sauce on it. Pop it in the oven. Oh, so good. Chop your Brussels sprouts so it's like cabbage and you get street tacos. All right, so anyway, moving on. Berries, sweet potato, cruciferous foods, your fermented foods, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, coleslaw, once it's been sitting for a little bit, yes. Kombucha, pickles, pickled peppers, anything like that that has had time to ferment. Some of your hard cheeses will have some fermentation. So like your blue cheese, those of you who can't eat dairy, doesn't necessarily count for us, but those count because it's a fermentation. All right. Nuts and seeds. Peanuts. Peanuts are not nuts. Peanuts are considered legumes. They're not considered nuts. So while, yes, they are healthy for you, they're not considered nuts or seeds. Seeds are going to give you a lot more protein, not as much fat. The fat content within nuts and seeds that's what you need for your immune system. We had talked about this last week where our immune system just loves fats. Not saying go overboard. It loves healthy fats. Healthy fats really is one of the core components to help it function well. So healthy fats coming from nuts and from seeds, your gut's all in. All right. Medicinal mushrooms. And as I mentioned before, because I know I've mentioned medicinal mushrooms multiple times just within our time together, I am not talking about shrooms, you guys. I'm literally talking about nutritional healers, medicinal mushrooms, okay? Shiitake mushrooms, lion's mane, oyster mushrooms, things like that. Even the button mushrooms. They're superfoods. They help us. They help our immune system. They help our gut. There's an intertwining there. It works out perfectly. Yogurt. If you're dairy-free like me, it still counts. Coconut yogurt, I have found, is my favorite, but really any of them, whatever you align with most, whatever you prefer, works. I prefer the coconut yogurt mostly because I know that a lot of probiotics can come from coconut as well. So there's not a lot that needs to be added in. Now, granted, it's dairy-free, so there's probiotics that need to be added in and needs to be fortified in some way, shape, or form. But for the most part, yogurt, it's just like kefir, yogurt and kefir. They're fermented, right? And whole grains. Now, I am specifically going to ask that you make sure your whole grains come from ancient grains if you're in the United States, and here's why. Our food system here has been so jacked up. And I have worked with people all over this world. I continue to work with people all over the world. And in other countries, the grains grown have not had the history that ours have. So a lot of the gluten intolerances and sensitivities that we're experiencing in our society today are because of this. So if you focus just on ancient grains, and there are a few ancient grains that are not necessarily gluten-free, but those with a gluten sensitivity can consume them safely without side effects. I'm happy to share a couple of them with you. I'm not going to do it here. That would be a whole different discussion. We'd be here for another half an hour. So when you look at whole grains are a crucial element to helping our immune system and our gut health. You want to make sure that what you're consuming is more ancient grain versus just plain old whole grain. Be very particular about your grains. All right. Last two. I'm going to save the best for last. Legumes, healthy fats, protein from plants. For those of you that actually struggle to consume them, cause you a significant amount of gas, cramping, any of that, the side effects that we associate with beans, the gassiness especially. If you take your beans and you soak them overnight, rinse them, and then cook them, you're good. If you have beans that came in a can, I do it. Pull them out, rinse them, put them into whatever you're cooking. What that does is that actually removes some of the resistance starch on them and inside of them, which helps you digest them. Another suggestion would be to have a digestive enzyme, and that's going to help your body not just absorb it, but metabolize it. A lot of the foods that contain resistant starches can be problematic for some of us. Legumes, it's one of those foods. If you like them, there's no reason you can't have them unless there is some sort of a side effect, some reaction that you have to them. Just preparation. That's going to be the key for you, is preparation. And finally, number 10, pineapples and papayas. Tropical foods. For the same reason I mentioned a little earlier, tropical foods are sun worshipers. They soak up the sun, they soak up all the goodness in the sun, all the goodness in the dirt, and then they get sent to us and we get to eat them. It's amazing. Papayas and pineapples, the reason those are specifically mentioned is those have the highest content of micronutrients for both immune health and gut health. Okay, so as such, papayas and pineapple. If you do not like papayas or pineapples, no worries, go for some tropical foods. Okay, the tropical fruits are amazing. Jackfruit, tropical fruit, contains protein, a lot of protein actually. It's pretty high in the content. Okay, so we've gone through our 10 foods. I'm going to summarize them real quick for you. Berries, sweet potatoes, cruciferous foods, fermented foods, nuts and seeds, mushrooms, yogurt, whole grains, think ancient, legumes, and papayas and pineapples. So there's your 10. We are going to continue this discussion by talking about the holidays. So join me next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Do we go there yet? The boys have just gotten into Spider-Man and things like that. So it's Batman and Spider-Man all over my brain. But anyway, same bat time, same bat channel. Next week, we're going to talk about all this means with the holiday season coming up, including Halloween. Okay. What's going to happen between all these holidays and now you're starting to work on healing your gut? What happens? Or let's say you've already healed your gut and now you have this great plan and you're going healthy and everything's going well, but then the holidays hit and now we have all this new stuff that isn't necessarily new, but for your healthier self, it's kind of new. So we're going to talk about all of that next week. It is the last of our 4-part series. So if you have not watched the other couple of videos, they will be linked below in YouTube as well. Thank you guys for joining me. Cheers. I will chat with you next week. Bye, guys.